So we are going to get into systems today, but before we do, I did want to make sure that you guys all have the foundation in place, which is having a clear and profitable target market or avatar. I'm sure most of you have heard the phrase niche, target audience, ideal client avatar. Like those phrases are pretty much like if you've even thought about starting a business, you've probably heard them before. But basically, this is just the person who is the primary candidate for the service that you want to sell. Now, I will say that whether you're brand new to business or you've been in business 10 years, because we've worked with people, in that spectrum in the MBA program, 99% of the people that come to work with us in our program need to fix this before they move on to anything else. And like I said, this has nothing to do with how much money you're making, how long you've been in business. If you're not reaching your goals and you're struggling to make sales and you're not getting the consistent growth in your business that you're looking for, this is probably not what it needs to be. So I just want to make sure we start here because everything else I teach systems wise is not actually going to work for you if this is not identified and nailed first. Okay. So like I said, I have some new content for you today. This is actually a new framework that I just created. I'd been noodling on it for a while, and then I literally built the actual visuals today. So I'm super excited to share it with you because I think it'll really help you start to look at your ideal client differently. I'm calling this the avatar elevation pyramid. And basically, this is going to help you move from growing a passive audience that doesn't actually invest in your services to attracting premium buyers who are ready to buy what you're selling and have very little resistance to making the purchase and are the ones that say yes easily, pay in full, move forward, and do all the things that we all want our ideal clients to do. So I'm going to walk you through a few different elements on this framework, but basically this is going to show you the 5 different audience types that you could be building your business around. Some of them are ones you want to build your business around. Some of them are ones that you should not build your business around. And as I'm going through this, I want you to be thinking about who do you think you're creating your business for right now? Because we're all creating our business for at least 1 or 2 of these audiences. And if you're creating for the wrong audience, that could be the main reason that you're not reaching your income goals with all the work that you're putting in. So I will say that as we go up this pyramid, every level is going to be more and more likely to invest in your offer without hesitation. And I'm not saying that they will never have any questions or that you don't have to have a conversation with somebody before they buy. But when I say that it's without hesitation, they're not taking 3 months to make a decision about working with you. They're not saying yes on the phone and then ghosting later. This is somebody who makes a decision quickly and is ready to take action and isn't somebody who needs to hem and haw about the investment for 3 months, right? So ideally, as a business owner, we want to attract people into our business who are not hesitant about investing with our stuff. And the less hesitant they are, the easier it is for us to make the sale and the less work we have to do to convince or try to prove to somebody that they should work with us, which we shouldn't have to do at all in ideal circumstances. Now, the bottom half of this pyramid is based on the people who are less likely to invest. And I want to talk about human psychology and human motivation for a second. So you guys might have heard this before, but basically humans are generally motivated by 2 different types of motivation, either avoiding pain or seeking pleasure. So avoiding pain is I don't want to get hit by a truck, so I'm going to look both ways before I cross the street, right? Versus seeking pleasure is I want to get married, so I'm going to go download Tinder and see if I can find a date for tonight, right? So it's that's seeking pleasure that you're going on Tinder. Avoiding pain is looking both ways before you cross the street. So that's very silly examples, but kind of obvious ones, right? So generally every bit of human behavior is motivated by one of those 2, or maybe both, but usually one of those 2 in a stronger way. Now, I will say generally for people, pain avoidance is a much stronger motivator in general. So if somebody's choosing between avoiding pain and seeking pleasure, they will avoid pain much more strongly, even if it means that they're not getting the pleasurable outcome that they want. That said, certain people in certain contexts of their lives avoid pain and are more motivated by avoiding pain than others. So we all have situations in our life where maybe pain avoidance is really, really strong. For some of you, maybe that's a relationship or your business or raising your kids or something like that, right? Like maybe there's a certain part of your life where all you're trying to do, or maybe it's like your body, right? Like maybe you're working out and you're like, I don't have any specific workout goals, but I just want to make sure I don't have pain right now when I'm working out. And then there's certain areas of our life where we're more likely to seek pleasure. Again, maybe it's relationships. Maybe you're like, I really just want an awesome relationship and I'm willing to be single for a longer period of time before, I date the right person because I really just want a pleasurable experience with my relationship versus I don't care about avoiding the pain of being single. With your business, it might be that you are seeking the pleasure of having a profitable business and it means that you're willing to go through the pain of investing in your business or putting the effort out there or doing uncomfortable things like going on social media or whatever feels uncomfortable given the day. So everybody's motivated by different things in different levels and different contexts, but certain people in the context of what you solve or the problem that you solve for your clients are going to be more motivated by pain or more motivated by pleasure. Let me know. Just say yes or no in the chat if this makes sense, because this is something that will help with understanding why certain people are behaving a certain way in your audience versus the other. Okay, awesome. So we're going to talk about the people who avoid pain when it comes to your particular area of expertise. And again, just because somebody avoids pain in one area of their life doesn't mean that they're avoiding pain in all of the areas of their life. However, that can be a pattern sometimes. So the bottom part of the pyramid are the people who are most motivated by avoiding pain or avoiding problems in general. We're going to start with the people that I call the sleeper type of avatar. So these are the level 1 on this pyramid. And these are the people in your audience or in your world that either are fully unaware that they have the problem that you solve, or they don't care enough about the problem to do anything about it. We all have people in our lives who are like dealing with health issues that they're just like happily going about their day without any sort of awareness or attention to it. Meanwhile, we're like, what is wrong? Like, how do you not see that this is a problem, right? Like, how many of us have had a parent or something that was doing that? And we're just like, we want to shake them, but they're just totally unaware of the problem. So they're disengaged from the problem. They don't even think they have it, or they haven't gotten a diagnosis, or they're just ignoring it. They're not actively seeking any solution for the problem. And they're really not very motivated at all. And even if they are motivated, they're mostly motivated to avoid the pain of making change. So for them, for the sleeper, it's actually more painful for them to do the work to make a change than to actually experience the pain of the problem. I know that maybe sounds like crazy to some of us, especially if you're somebody who's like very ambitious and always wants to solve problems, but there's lots of people out there that would rather be like uncomfortable in their current situation than be uncomfortable during the change. So for this person, their likelihood of investing anything with you is probably 0. Even if they're even aware of the problem or acknowledge that they have a problem, there's very little chance that they're going to actually pay for a solution. I will say, unfortunately, having worked in hospital settings as a dietitian when I was doing my internship, this is a lot of the people you run into that like they're forced to talk to you because their doctor said you need to do this, or like they won't let you out of the hospital until you talk to the dietitian. They just are like, I don't even care. Please don't talk to me about this. And I think it should be pretty obvious that you wouldn't be wanting to build your business to serve these people. That said, a lot of people that I work with are a little bit of like the bleeding heart, wants to help everybody type of person. And so what they'll end up doing with their business is they'll try to create a business that also serves these people because they don't want to leave anybody out. And that is just a total recipe for disaster. So it's literally, there's no point of trying to serve these people in your business. You're not going to be the one that suddenly magically makes them care about their problem. And this is absolutely a segment of your audience, your potential market that you should not do any marketing to. All right. So hopefully that should be pretty obvious. That should be one that doesn't surprise anybody. The next level, level 2, is the struggler. The struggler knows that they have a problem. So they're not like not aware. They're not ignoring it. They're not just like totally disinterested in creating any sort of change. However, they are not somebody who necessarily is motivated to solve the problem. They just want enough information or support to make the pain a little bit better. And then once they're out of the deep pain, it's like they fall back into old habits. They're not really necessarily working that hard to fix the problem. The behavior you'll see if this is somebody in your audience is they consume free content, but they don't ever buy anything. Maybe once in a while, they'll send you a DM and ask a question in the DM. But even if you answer them, they're not actually going and doing what you said. So you're like trying to support these people, but they're not actually even doing what you're telling them to do. They say they want change, but when it comes down to, are you ready to do this? They're not really ready. And they say they're not ready, or maybe they just disappear. And then that demonstrates that they're not ready. They do want the pain gone. So the pain is not necessarily physical pain. It can be, but they want the pain of the experience that they're having, emotional, physical, whatever type of pain they're in. They want that pain gone, but they're not really willing to do any work for themselves to actually get the pain solved. And they're the kind of person who wants to be rescued. They feel powerless. They feel like, why is this happening to me? I'm the victim here to this situation. And they look at someone like you as someone who should rescue them and as someone who should do it out of the goodness of your heart and not charge them money for it. This is somebody who, again, is very unlikely to spend any money. They're the ones that have the most time and money excuses for getting support. And the difference between the sleeper and the struggler is that the struggler feels like they are trying to solve the problem, but it's basically like they're just freebie seeking the whole time. So that is something where you can start to see people like this in your audience. They just want free tips. They just want the free resource that you provided. They are like, no, I'm not interested in paying you. I just really just want as many free things as I can get. Let me know in the chat if you have experienced people like this in your audience where they're like, I want this problem solved, but I would like for you to just fix it for me. Yeah, definitely a really common issue. So like I said, these people can be a little tricky because they act like they want help and they act like they want to actually fix the problem. And those of us who care about our audience are like, okay, yes, I can help you. And then it's like the minute any sort of action taking comes into play, they disappear. Okay. So hopefully, again, that's clear that that's not the person you want to be building your business around, because that would be exhausting and very unprofitable. Now let's talk about the seeker. This is where it starts to get a little bit more difficult because this person definitely shows up as if they would be an ideal client. So they know they have a problem. They actively seek knowledge, kind of like the struggler. They download a lot of freebies. They watch videos. They may even buy some low ticket resources. So they're not spending anything, but they're looking for what's the cheapest way that I can solve this problem. And for them, if they can do it themselves, if they can watch 100 YouTube videos, if they can do 20 different free trainings from 20 different practitioners, like that's the kind of stuff that they want to do. Because for them, they believe that having more information is how they're solving the problem. So they're actually mixed in their motivation. They are trying to avoid pain, but they're kind of like waffling between avoiding pain and seeking pleasure. For them, the challenge is that they seek pleasure by gathering information and learning. So I know we both, like if you're anything like the people I work with, I'm like this too. We like to learn, right? There's nothing bad about liking to learn, but we all know that if all we ever do is learn, but we never implement, we're not actually learning and we're not getting the value of that education, right? However, it can feel, especially for the seeker, it can feel like they're doing something positive when they're learning. And then they just circle the drain around learning, 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 maybe doing a little bit of stuff, but they're never really all in on solving the problem. So they kind of like scratch their itch by getting more information. And to them, it feels like they're seeking pleasure. But what they're really doing is they're just avoiding the pain of not doing anything, but they're not necessarily all in on getting a solution. So for this person, their spending likelihood is low to medium. They might buy some $50 products, $100 products, maybe even a couple of $100, just looking for something that can help a bit. But they're not necessarily going to spend at a level that actually feels like it costs them anything. Now, the really tricky thing about the seekers is that these are actually usually the most engaged people on social media. So that's why when people say, don't like focus on vanity metrics on social media, or like be careful about how you're responding to people on the DMs, because like just because somebody says they would pay for something doesn't mean that they will. These are the people that like will talk your face off if you let them. in any given circumstance. And I see Anahita as the brain blowing emoji. Yes. And it's something that, again, is so sneaky because we always think, oh, of course, if they're interacting with me this much, of course they're going to buy. Of course they're interested. And the unfortunate thing is a lot of times the people who ask the most questions, who comment the most on your stuff, unless they're actually paid clients, which for us, funnily enough, our most active commentators are people that are already paying me. So usually it's after they become a client that they're very engaged. But it's the people who haven't paid you yet that are super engaged in your content. And if they are thinking about working with you, they're the ones that ask like 55 questions in the DMs about your offer. They are the ones that collecting information and learning and getting questions answered is what they're looking for. They're not actually looking for solving the problem. Okay. So I'm glad a lot of you are having light bulb moments because this is like seriously where I find most people that I work with get sucked in because they get that, again, the dopamine hit of the engagement, the conversation, the interest, and they don't realize that this is the person who they're talking to. And then they get those price objections and they're like, oh, I guess I should lower my price. And it's like, okay, yeah, maybe they'll spend $30 on something that you're going to sell. But if you're trying to run a business that doesn't require thousands of people signing up to work with you every month or year, this is not who we want to be talking to. Okay. So it's really easy to mistake that this is your ideal client because they're so actively engaged, but this is not who we want to build our business around. Okay. All right. So now we're going to talk about the people who are the pleasure seeker, pleasure motivated. They're motivated by the positive outcome. So again, the seeker is kind of like back and forth. They're like, oh, this sounds really great, but then they don't actually do anything, right? Like they talk a big game, they don't move forward. Now we want to look at the people who are very motivated by the positive outcomes. We're going to talk about the solver. Solver people are fully aware of their problem. They're highly motivated to fix it, and they know that they most likely can't do it alone if they've already been trying to fix the problem. So I know a lot of us are smart people. We can figure things out. We can, get things done. And there's areas of our life where we're not an expert and we can't actually figure it out alone. And so the person who's in this category is the person who realizes they've reached the end of their capabilities from the effort that they've put in. And now they're like, okay, I need help with this. And I don't want to waste any more time or effort doing things on my own. I am going to find somebody to help solve this problem for me. So this person is interesting because they value their time way more than they value their money. And again, I'm not saying they don't value money, but they're not going to hoard money and spend tons of time to try to solve their problem. They would rather pay the money to get their time or to get their problem solved quickly so that they're not wasting tons and tons of time trying to figure it out themselves. These are your fast action takers. So if you guys have ever worked with somebody who's a solver type, you tell them to do something and they go do it. Now, I'm not saying that they do it every single time or they do it perfectly, but you're not having the same conversation 5 calls in a row because they just haven't done anything that you suggested that they do, right? So they take action. Maybe they make mistakes. Maybe they struggle, but they still are very action oriented. So they invest in solutions. They implement the solutions. They participate. Like if you've ever run a group program and somebody like didn't even open the content that you've provided, that's not these people. These people take action on what they bought, even if they don't do everything. Again, I'm not saying these people are perfect, but they're motivated. They do the things that they say they're going to do, and they're motivated to get their time back versus save or hoard money. So these people invest to save their time. They want to collapse the trial and error cycle. They would rather just get the right solution and not waste all this energy and time making mistakes. And they're the ones that are most likely to get results of the 4 that you're seeing here. They have a high spending likelihood. So this is the type of person who, even if they're a little nervous about investing, they're not going to just use that money excuse over and over for why they're not getting help, right? Like they're actually willing to spend money, even if it makes them uncomfortable. It's something that they're willing to do. I will say that of the 5, even including the one I'm about to end with, these are actually the easiest to sell to because their challenges tend to be less complicated than the people at the top because they haven't necessarily done as much work. They haven't hired as many people. They want help, but they're not necessarily like so far advanced that they need this super complicated solution. So usually these are the people that come into your program and they're like, you help them eat more protein and they're like, oh my gosh, this feels amazing, right? Like they're very easy to help and they're also action takers. They're motivated to get results quickly. Like they tend to be the people who get the fastest results with the least amount of crazy, support or stuff that you have to do. So this is one of the reasons why they're fun to work with, because we all love when people come into our programs and it's just like instantly like, wow, this whole changed my life in a very short period of time. And it was like balancing their blood sugar or something like that. Okay. Finally, we're going to talk about the top of the pyramid, which is the succeeding avatar. So they are the most likely to invest at very high levels in whatever they want. These are kind of those people that are like the Ariana Grande, see it, I want it, I got it, whatever. I don't know the lyrics to that, but it's like they see something they want, they buy it. That's the kind of person we're talking about here. Nothing will stand in the way of them reaching their goals. So they're already solving the problem. They're already getting results. They're action takers. They implement quickly. They want to optimize and accelerate their results in their health, their relationships, their money. Like we all know people like this, right? Like we all want to be people like this, people that look to be successful in all areas of their life and are willing to do whatever it takes. Like I think we all like aspire to be that way. There are going to be people in your audience that this is their situation. So again, if they have a problem that they can't solve on their own, they're very likely to spend money quickly and not even bat an eye at it. And they invest repeatedly. So usually even after they've solved the problem, it's like, how much better can this get? I'm going to keep spending money. These people can end up being your best case studies, testimonials, repeat buyers, people who continue to work with you for years on end, depending on the kind of support you provide. Like I've worked with my personal trainer. I'm on a break right now because of just having a baby, but I've been working with my personal trainer for like, I think it's close to 10 years at this point. I didn't go into his office when I signed up to work with him saying, sign me up for a 10-year program. But because I get good results and I appreciate the optimal results that I get from working with him, I've been with him for that many years. Probably have spent at least, I don't know, $20,000 or more to work with him. I don't even know at this point. But those are the kind of people that will just keep spending money to keep getting better results. They're great for elevated offers, VIP offers, like higher touch things that they can get faster results and better results. These people, like I said, their money is no object. They're going to just spend whatever they need to spend to get the result. I know we would all love to have everybody we work with be there. It's a very small share of the market. And again, they do tend to have more expectations as to what kind of support you're going to provide, what kind of results they're going to get. And so that's why working with the solver can actually be a little easier because their expectations are not as high as the succeeder. But it's also, like I said, fun to work with the succeeder because they will just spend and do whatever you tell them to do because they're just there to optimize. Okay. So those are the 5 levels of your potential avatar. And what I want you guys to remember here is that most of the engagement in your audience is going to come from these people, the struggler and the seeker. They will DM you a bazillion times. They will sign up for every single freebie that you offer. They love your content. They'll comment on everything. They'll ask for the same freebie 15 times, but anytime you put it out there. They rarely, if ever, buy anything. Okay. I'm not saying never. They might, and they might move up, right? Like people can move up, but it's not your job to move them up, right? Your job is to speak to what they already want. Your best buyers are going to be the solver and the succeeder. And the solver is actually really going to be your best buyer for your entry point. They may not engage as much on social media. Honestly, the succeeder is probably not going to engage at all, like ever, because they're not going to be wasting their time on social media. And then the solver is like lurking. Usually they're like just peeking at your stuff. Like, is this person for me? Are they giving me what I want? They're not like super, super engaged for months on end. But these people do make quick decisions. They invest at higher levels and they take action inside your programs, which makes them perfect buyers for a premium offer, especially. So the goal in your entire business is to speak to primarily the solvers who want to become the succeeders. So they're at the solver level and they're motivated by the kind of results that the succeeder is getting. That is where your best sales are going to come from. And that's where your best client outcomes are going to come from, is the person who's in that solver category. Okay. So that is the avatar elevation pyramid, sorry. And just as a reminder, our job with our content is not to turn a struggler into a solver. That is not our job. It's probably not anything that we can really control. You will drive yourself crazy trying to turn these people into this person. The goal is to speak to this person and create your business around this person. Now, let me know in the chat, who do you think you're talking to right now in your business? And this could be the offer you've created. Did you create your offer for the solver, or did you create it for the seeker or the struggler? Do you create your content and your marketing for the solver, or are you creating it for the seeker because they're the ones that are like answering all your DMs and your polls and saying, this is what I want, but they're not actually buying anything? Yeah, it looks like a lot of people saying that they're in the seeker category, maybe the struggler as well. Offer is created for the succeeder, but probably speaking to the seekers and solvers. Okay. So looks like mostly a mix between these ones for like what you're creating your business around. I doubt I hope nobody's at this level where they're speaking to the sleeper, but sometimes it can be subtle, right? Like we want to help everybody, but this is not the person we need to be helping. Okay. Yeah. A lot of people saying the seeker. Okay. So this is a huge opportunity then for you. If this is the only thing you take away from the training today, stop talking to the seeker, start talking to the solver. Start talking to the person who is looking to invest and not just looking for information.